Be a good person.
It's easy to say, hard to do, Mike.
Yeah. Not only to the impact it has on others, but I think it makes you happier when you're a good human being to others. So
this podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of your podcast, Leaders in Tech, where we're shining the light through the lives of leaders that are really pushing technology with their teams to make this world a better place. Today we have with us Mike Voss. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. Excited to be here.
Wonderful, Mike. For the audience, can you tell me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
No problem. So, hello, my name is Mike Voss. I am a Field Chief Technology Officer at SHI International, and I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a lifelong D.C., Maryland, Virginia resident, or the DMV as we like to call it.
Washington, D.C. So a lot of government, right?
I started my career with about 10 years I spent for a very prominent government contractor. And then since then I shifted to the value-added reseller space where I've been for the last 13 years. 13
years, so quite a career. Tell me, Mike, I was going to go into it. What does your main company do? Like, tell me about this VAR business. A lot of people in this podcast, of course, are technologists. We know what value-added resellers are, but the common names are only the common names, and then I get into interviewing you and I never heard about your business, and it's a multi-billion-dollar company, right?
Sure. So the value-added reseller, or VAR, or channel partner, essentially we are the suppliers of technology for organizations. So we resell hardware, software. You know, we don't make a lot of products, but we resell products that are sold by all the major hardware manufacturers, software manufacturers, and we sort of act as that middle or in between, because we have a very large sales force. We invest in a lot of technical expertise and talent, and we also have salespeople that develop relationships with organizations. So we become that conduit. We become that advisor to the technical side of an organization that's buying technology. They will often work with us to help them select, deploy, and manage all the technology that they consume. So everything from the laptop and the PC to data center infrastructure and all the software that goes in the data center, to networking, storage, cloud computing, and essentially the entire IT portfolio we can provide expertise and help organizations select the right product, and then also figure out the best way to consume and purchase that technology.
And Mike, a lot of people will wonder, why don't companies just go directly to their end clients? And being the owner of a few software companies myself, you quickly realize that the sales effort, the marketing effort is the hardest part sometimes. And having somebody that is specializing in that allows the manufacturer just to worry about building a better product without worrying about who's going to buy it, right?
You understand it, David. I mean, a lot of the manufacturers, they want to make really good products, and then they rely on our sales engine and our relationships to help scale. A lot of times they couldn't hire the amount of sales staff and marketing that's required to reach their sales goals. So as manufacturers scale their business, the channel partner becomes essential to helping them grow their business and grow their market share.
So how long have you been in this company?
I've been in SHI for 11 years.
11 years. Wow. Let's look back at your life, Mike. I mean, being a field CIO in such a large organization takes a lot of effort. Did you go to university for computer science, or what did you do after high school?
Yeah, so I went to James Madison University in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and I was originally going to be an accounting major because my mother worked in finance, and so what I found was that I really liked technology. I used to connect computers in high school and do a lot of gaming with my friends. Before the high-speed internet, we would have a thing called LAN parties, where we would all bring our computers to someone's house and connect them all, and we could play games with really good experience. So that's actually where I got started in IT. And then when I went to college, I found that the computer majors were really hot. I mean, I went to college in the late 90s. I graduated in 2001, and so right around the Y2K timeframe. So technology, the internet technology, was really starting to boom during that time, and so some of the more lucrative starting salaries were also with computers and information systems. So I shifted my degree to computer information systems, and it was perfect for me because I could leverage. I could be a technologist, but I could also leverage some of my communication skills and my other skills that I picked up in life. And so, versus being, there's some people are really great at coding and they don't necessarily want to talk to people.
Yeah.
But in my role, you have to be able to articulate technology to the really technical as well as the non-technical, and explain the value and the reasons why you need to go that direction. So it was a good fit to be more of a technology consultant for me. So that's kind of been my path.
Mike, you touched a great point. Actually, if you ever want to become a director of technology or a CIO, you have to have that business acumen, right? It's actually, when you choose the leadership path in technology, you're pretty much saying goodbye to a lot of things that got you to where you are, which is your love for technology. In fact, some business leaders that I have interviewed, business and technology leaders that I have interviewed, do not have a technology background. They actually stumble upon technology in their careers, and then they realize they love it, and then they get more technical, but they come from 100% business background, and that's what makes them successful. Interesting, right?
It is, and it's been an interesting transition for me because there hit a point where I felt like my role was to be the smartest person in the room always about technology, and I would always make it my business to know as much as I could, so I could provide a lot of expertise and information. And that of course is still a very prevalent role, but as I've become a field chief technology officer, I've had to think more like a leader, think more strategy, talk more about outcomes and less about the bits and the bytes. So that's been and there's a lot of, I find that there's a lot of engineers in the space that are really talented, but they're comfortable in the technical space. When they start to get into the non-technical, what's the business outcome we're trying to achieve, that's a little bit more of a challenge. So they tend to stay in their lane, which is, I really know this technology really well, and I can tell you everything you want to know about it. So there's a place for those different roles, but I think that's where I've evolved and grown my career, is being able to kind of be adaptable and learn how to talk more about outcomes and strategy.
It really depends how you were built, right? Like, if you look at the world, so I'm a man of faith, I follow the Lord, and I quickly see that people have been built to do different things in life, and if you find what your skills are and you apply yourself to those skills, you're going to blossom, whether you're a technologist or a business leader. And if you try to mix that, a lot of people can do it, but it's a hard life. It's a very hard life because you're always bumping against something that you're not meant to be, right? And when I look at technologists and business in technology, I was both. I was a developer for, I wrote code for 20 years. And so as I was growing as a technology leader, I never wanted to leave my compiler, right? But I quickly realized that the Lord didn't make me to be a developer. He made me to be a technology leader. But I fell in love so much with the technology part that, I didn't want to leave it. But then when I had my first supervisor role, I quickly realized that I was probably, if at best, a mediocre developer. At best. Like all the new kids that were coming out of school were like 10 times better than me. But they couldn't communicate. They couldn't talk business. They didn't understand they didn't understand what EBITDA was. They didn't understand what the return on investment is, right?
Right.
So, and those things were so familiar to me just because I was made to be a leader, right?
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough that when I was hired out of college, I went to a really good, well-established firm. I went to a firm called Booz Allen Hamilton. And it's a 100-plus-year-old consulting firm, and it was really good for a college graduate, and because they taught me all the basics, right? They taught me, there was a big emphasis on leadership. There was a big emphasis on really just understanding all the values that versus being good at one particular thing. They had a very intensive review process. So I felt like I was there for 10 years, and I felt like they refined me year after year after year. They would really, so you would get assessed by people above you, below you, same level, because it was very much a hierarchy structure. And it was very intensive, and they would look at everything from your technical skills to your communication skills to your financial skills to all the different attributes that you were measured by. And over time, you start to improve all your weak spots. And after 10 years or so, you start to feel like, wow, maybe I'm pretty polished at what I'm doing now. I've kind of filled the gaps, filled the holes. And so once I became a technical expert around a particular technology, which for me was virtualization or VMware, that was the wave that I really rode in my career and became kind of the go-to person when I was at Booz Allen, and I got certified, and I realized that there was incredible demand for that skill set. So then I found out that the VARs really wanted that kind of expertise, and that's where I kind of made the switch into the VAR space, because I really liked being the subject matter expert. And so but I came in with a really good polished background. So some of my peers that were really good technologists that focused on the technology the whole time, I don't know that all of them had the same level of polish and the same level of writing skills, presentation skills, business acumen, financial skills. So I feel like that working for a really good company was key for me to develop that skill set, and then have a little bit of a competitive advantage against some of my peers, and help me to elevate my brand.
Definitely, Mike. I want to tell you a beautiful story, and it's beautiful because you and I had the privilege of working for consulting firms. I made my own consulting firm, ISU Corp. That's what we do. We do consult, but we only focus on the software side, right? We just build new products for clients. But it taught me very hard lessons that I should have learned at the beginning of my career. You had the blessing that you had at the beginning of your career. But listen to this. This guy is one of my best friends. You know how we met? I was a leader in a very large franchise here in Canada. So I was in charge of all the software for over 500 stores across the country, and close to $1 billion in sales, I remember. And we were hiring a consulting firm to build a web portal for us, an internal web portal for all the franchisees. And we went through the process, and then I selected a company, and then the consultant that came was amazing. So we developed a friendship. And funny enough, after that, a few years later, I opened my own software consulting firm, and I asked him if he knew anybody that wanted software, and turns out that he needed people, so he always was sending me projects all the time because he was already connected. Many years went by, and then he said, I'm done with consulting. I want to get a stable job. And we can talk about that, by the way, in consulting. So he said, I really want to, he was older, he was getting into his 50s, and he says, I really want to settle down and just grow as a leader in technology in a more stable environment. And I happen to have a very large insurance company as a client of my consulting firm, and they were looking for a director of software development. So he applied, I did the recommendations, and he got hired, and he just ate everybody when he got there. He said, I'm going to be here 3 years, and I know I'm going to get bored. I'm going to go back to consulting. He never went back. He's been there for 15 years now. And now he's very high up. But the business acumen that he brought with him, the willing to do whatever it takes to please the client, knowing that the client's always first, and also making sure that the ROI is there from his team. Just having those, knowing that if your client is not happy, you're not going to have a job tomorrow. Only a consulting firm can teach you that.
I agree. And there were some attributes that I took from my consulting world. Like, for example, I kind of treat everybody like a customer, not just the customer, but I treat my peers, I treat the other people I work with. I want to impress them. I want them to have rave reviews when they speak about me. So that's part of the brand building that I learned. You build a brand, you do good quality work, you treat people the right way, and there's a really good brand around you. And I found that not everyone understands that necessarily. They're just kind of working in there, they're doing their job, but they're not thinking about their brand. Right. And it's interesting that I've had some other very successful people. Actually, my team lead, I met him at this job, at this role, but he actually talked about the same thing about building your brand. And so that was a big thing. And part of that's also a lot of mentoring. In the consulting world, there was a big emphasis on mentoring. And so I found that I want to help other people be successful. And I like to, and you're almost in that world, you're trying to, you don't fear someone replacing you. You want to train someone to replace you so that you can grow your career and go to the next step always. So I've always tried to, I like, if I see talent in someone, I'm going to invest some time in them. And I found that builds your brand. And then those individuals really appreciate you, and they feel indebted to you, and they want to help you back. So it's building those relationships and building people that are fiercely loyal to you because you've helped them, and you've helped guide them through their own challenges and learn how to overcome and achieve the next step in their career as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, what I said before might not be true, right? Like, you can learn good customer service and good skills in any company. But what I meant is, in a consulting firm, you do it so much faster, mm-hmm. right? Because you are measured directly against the revenue that you're bringing to the business, but also the customer satisfaction. Like, if you don't do a good job, they're not going to call you back, right?
Right. Yeah, and there's a high standard of quality for sure, and right. And that's part of where I think I've led also, is just showing, like, setting the standard for what good looks like, mm-hmm. and showing that to other people. And that's how I've been able to establish myself as a leader. Interestingly enough, in my role, I don't have to actually manage a lot of people, but I'm seen as a senior leader in the organization, because at SHI, we talk a lot about John C. Maxwell's. He writes the attributes of a leader, and we talk a lot about leadership is influence, and having a lot of influence over different people through, like I said, high quality work, building a good brand. That's been a key aspect for me.
John Maxwell, actually, I know about him. We bought his leadership training for our company. Yep. He's amazing, and the way he teaches on servant leadership, I think if everybody had that mentality when they have a position of influence, they will grow pretty fast in their career because people will love them, right?
That's it. Yeah, and and it's interesting. We did John C. Maxwell when I was at Booz Allen, and then fast forward, they introduced John C. Maxwell at SHI, and I said, "Oh, I'm familiar with that." And now it's ingrained into the culture now, where everybody who's a new hire goes through the training of what's called the 5 levels of leadership. And it speaks to what you just said, is that leading through authority is the lowest level of leadership. Like, I'm your boss, therefore I need you to do, you need to do this, right? But if you can earn people's trust and connect with them and understand their values and lead and get them to want to follow you and believe in the vision that you're going after, that's where big things happen.
And it is not easy. I mean, It's so easy to go and say, you shall do this because I'm your boss. That's the easiest thing. And that's when you create a horrible, horrible culture. But going through the process where you earn their trust, and then they actually going to do what you are guiding them to do because they trust you, and also empowering them to take their own decisions, and you just enabling them. That's even another level, right? Which is like, no, the team, you're the protector of the team, and you're the enabler for them to move forward.
You never forget the people that gave you that opportunity, right? And I can remember when in my first consulting role where I could sense that this was and my manager at the time said, this is your opportunity right now. You can be the expert on this topic, and you can lead this topic, and this is your opportunity to get promoted. And we both got promoted. Like we all worked together, and he got promoted, I got promoted, and we were all very successful. And I just remember it was an inflection point in my career. It was like, here's this opportunity in front of you. I'm going to give it to you. Let's go.
Amazing. And the fact that the two of you got promoted, that means that like you were doing your jobs, right? I always say that a true leader is the one that builds other leaders.
Exactly. And that's the structure, right? You're leading great leaders. And a lot of the people that I work with now are leading leaders, and that's a whole different level than just being a mid-level manager. They're leading multiple mid-level managers, right, from a senior leadership perspective. And so I've had the privilege to have a lot of influence amongst those groups.
And don't you find that the level of control in your personal life shrinks as you grow in your leadership careers? And let me explain. The objective is or the perception is different. But if you think about it, let's look at technologies, right? Let's say I'm a software developer, and I get that I have to build this module, and it has to be done with these specifications, and I have X amount of time to do it. Well, I'm controlling that 100%. I know what I need. I know what I should do. And if I get a blocker, I have resources to go out and get it done. So I'm in full control of what I'm doing. Then you get a job as a dev lead. So now you have a bigger portion of that software, and you maybe have 5-10 people that are actually writing the code. It's not only you a little bit. So like you're overseeing that. So it's your responsibility now to have that completed correctly with the right budget and the right time. And you don't have a whole lot of control over the people under you. So as you keep growing, the responsibility goes bigger, but the control it shrinks, right?
That's funny. Yeah, I think about it. I think about this parenting as well, and just learning how to let go of control, because you may believe you can do it better than all the people on your team. Maybe you can, but it's about, like you said, it's about empowering them and giving them a sense of ownership and a sense of excitement about what they're doing, and not feeling like they're just following instruction. You're guiding them loosely, but you're giving them a lot of autonomy to figure out how to get there, so they can feel that sense of accomplishment and contribution to the overall outcome.
And I think that when you go back to the basic building blocks of leadership, you have to go back to the individual that is producing. If that individual is confident in his job or her job, if they are confident, if they know that their bosses got their back, and if they know that they have the resources needed to build whatever it is that you're building, if you aggregate that and you have a beautiful culture, there's nothing but success. Because at the end of the day, a great leader has to have great people producing the work, right?
I agree, and I've certainly seen different kinds of leaders. I've had different kinds of leaders. Some that lead more with authority and are a little more about control, and others that are more about building trust and relationships. And I working for multiple organizations, sometimes when you hear about people that there's a lot of friction, it's because usually that leader doesn't do the things we're talking about. They're critical, and they have more control, and they're not empowering their people, and the people don't feel like they have their back. And I've heard this in multiple different companies. It's that you don't leave a company, you leave your boss. And so, especially in the world, in the world that I work in, you see a lot of people following the same boss too. They follow certain leaders. Even the word boss might even be an antiquated term, but they follow leaders. And because that person had their back, they trust, there's a lot of trust. They like working with that individual. So if that individual goes to another organization, says, come with me, they're much more likely to go. And so I see that a lot on the manufacturer side is, startups and companies kind of hit their peak, then leaders go to another company, and you see a lot of the same people follow the same path. And so and that's something that my leadership at SHI has talked about. There's two reasons that you leave a company. It's either, it's about maybe about compensation sometimes, and secondly, it's about your leader and whether you like them and want to follow them. Those two things. So let's try to support those two things the best we can, and that's how you're gonna you're gonna retain the top talent, because that's certainly been a challenge that companies like myself and others we're fighting to hire and retain the best technical talent, and providing a good leadership structure, having a common language like the John C. Maxwell values about building trust and leading by example and those things. That's how we believe we're going to keep the best people and make them want to stay here. I certainly didn't think I'd be here for 11 years. I thought, I didn't even think I'd come here in the first place, but the people that hired me, I liked them, and I continue to like them, and they've continued to give me opportunities to advance, and it's been a good place to work. So here I am 11 years later.
How was the transition, Mike, going from your 100-year-old consulting firm into this massive company?
I mean, I went to another reseller that was similar before I went to SHI, and I think you mentioned it. Working in the consulting world, it was really good, but then it got to the point where I was doing proposals where you're writing RFP responses, and I was working all through the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. I remember I worked all through Thanksgiving weekend to answer a proposal, and we won the business. It was great. Then I just felt like with my expertise around virtualization, the value-added reseller space just looked more. It really was the thing that was right for me. Right, I get to meet with companies, I get to diagnose their IT wants and challenges, and then provide technical solutions. And that sounded like that was right up my alley. It's what I really wanted to do, versus to be a kind of a managing partner at a consulting firm.
Yeah.
So that's what brought me over, and I haven't looked back since. It's just been a lot of fun. We definitely work hard. We have lots of fun and play hard, and get to take customers to lots of great events. And I'm actually here I'm in Austin, Texas, where one of our main locations is set up here, and it's a fun place to go. And we like to fly our executive customers in here, and I'm going to run an executive briefing tomorrow to talk through all kinds of strategy and different technologies. I'm going to talk about AI. So it's a fun role, fun job. So
it's funny. It's great because you still get to apply your consulting skills, but in a much more relaxed way, right?
Well, I don't have to spend all weekend writing RFP responses. There's certainly there's an attitude of, hey, let's do whatever it takes. We're in a highly competitive space. Customers are going to buy their IT from somebody, and they could buy it from us, or they could buy it from 10 other organizations. So we're all competing to put the V in the value-added reseller, show the value, and that's how you're going to ultimately win the most business.
That's beautiful. When I was in consulting, I mean, I still run the consulting firm, but now I had the blessing that I have a lot of people delegated to do all the work. But when I started the first 5-10 years, Mike, it was very hard. Traveling, I remember I would probably be home 1 week a month. Mm-hmm. And I saw my kids growing up horizontal, right? Exactly because of what you said. Like there was no time to say, oh, I'm going to spend the weekend with my family if I had a RFP to write. So otherwise I wouldn't pay the bills the next month. It's not easy, right? Eventually it got easier for me after the company grew and had good structures. But if you have a family, I would consider it twice to entertain a job like that. Like if you're single and you're growing your career, it's probably the best thing you can do, right? Learn to be a consultant in a large firm. Try to make yourself into a partnership, and fly those jets and go to those hotels and go visit clients. That part I still miss. It's actually, to be honest with you, that was fun. But it got tiring, and it got actually, it was against my family. Like I almost lose my family because I was never around, right?
There absolutely needs to be balance, and working nights and weekends, that was challenging. And I do travel some now, but I also, it's kind of it's a give and take. Like I'll travel, but then I'll have maybe a couple of weeks where I don't travel, and I'm at home every morning, every night, and maybe they're getting tired of me at that point. But I feel like I do get a lot of good quality time with my wife and my two children. And it's been a balancing act. I don't think they love it every time I travel, but it also it provides. So there's that as well. And so, certainly as I get further in my career, I do think more and more about, okay, I've been traveling a lot for maybe, the last 7 or 8 years. Like maybe I want to stay local and sleep in my bed every night and not be in hotels. And as much as I love eating out and going to conferences, probably will hit a point where I don't want to do that so much anymore. But I have gotten rather used to it, and it's certainly a balancing act, and I'm still home most of the time. It's not, I don't think I could travel Monday through Friday every single week unless I was single. I just couldn't do that. So I do like to be home. And so there's a little bit of a strain there, but I will find ways to overcome it and try to take fun vacations and make the best of it.
It's wonderful, Mike. If you had access to a time machine and you could travel back 15 years, what would you tell your younger self?
Buy lots of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Invest in this Nvidia technology. They seem to be really important right now with AI. So
Nvidia.
Nvidia, yeah, that's they're I don't know if you're following the artificial intelligence space, but Nvidia makes the chips that are driving all the artificial intelligence, and they almost have a monopoly on it right now. So their stock has gone up 200-fold, 200x in the last 10 years or so. So it would have been, I don't know if we'd be talking right now if I had bought some Nvidia. I'd be sitting having one of the drinks, a drink with one of those little little umbrellas on the
margarita.
Yeah. So that's certainly what I would say, but I don't know that I have any regrets. One thing I do think about is that I've pretty much gone in my career. I feel like I've elevated myself about as far as you can as being an individual contributor, right? And so I've had that decision point of multiple times where it's, do you want to be more of a manager in a manager role, a people leader, where you have direct you're a supervisor, direct reports. And it's been a real luxury is that my role has been just to be, to execute, just to be really good at the meeting, produce really good deliverables. And that's been all, I continue to do that to this day. I'm considered a leader. I have a lot of influence, but some of my peers where we were kind of at the same level, at one point, I decided to go more the technical route and become a CTO. And I have some peers that are now, VPs and they're leading teams. And so I do think that the people leaders ultimately have a higher ceiling, financially, in the long run, right? They can be my former boss when I was at a consulting firm. He's now a partner at Deloitte, and he's doing very, partners do well. So part of me wonders, did they had to put in serious hard work those long hours. They had to overcome a lot of different things, but now they're sitting in the same age and they're doing really, really well. So I thought about that. I've thought about the sacrifice of doing what you love versus just becoming more of a people organizational leader and going that route. So no regrets. Maybe I would be curious to know where I'd be today if I had decided to be more the people manager route and what things would look like now. I can still decide to make that shift, but that's something that that's also been a luxury, right? I haven't had to be in charge of hiring and letting people go, and which doesn't look like a fun thing that you have to do, and dealing with people issues. I really don't. I get to advise people on what to advise those leaders on my opinion of different people and who I think, how to improve, or some different things to work on with other people who I think is really excelling as well. But I don't have to be ultimately in charge of making those decisions, which is nice.
It's beautiful. And going back to the money part, I was invited to this Entrepreneur of the Year award by Ernst & Young EY. So we flew to California, and it was on Palm Springs. It was a beautiful event. It was like a 4-day gala, like amazing, right? Like tuxedos and stuff. Like they invited this amazing, like very popular singer to entertain us, and so I met a lot of partners, the like consultants that got to be partners, and one of them had a plane. He lived in Ottawa, but he flew a lot to Toronto to see his clients, and he had so much money that he actually became a pilot, and he flew from Ottawa to Toronto on a weekly basis by himself. So I'm like, that's amazing, but you really have to choose what do you want in life, because if everything is money, then you're gonna lose family. And like you said before, you have to balance it, because I don't even think this guy was married. He was probably divorced 2 or 3 times already. Because how can you sustain a family if you're even if you're a partner, but you're still doing that the kind of grinding, One of the reasons why he got his own plane is because he couldn't stand being at the airport anymore. He just wanted to go drive into his plane at the airport and do everything privately.
You make a great point, and I feel like you're validating the path that I chose, because I think that I've had a good career. I certainly have, I've enjoyed some luxuries, but I'm not like a partner.
Right.
But at the same time, I've had to, I'm happily married. I've spent a lot of time with my kids, and I've had a lot of influence on their life. I've been able to be at all their sporting events and all my daughter's cheerleading competitions and all those things. So I don't feel like I've missed out, and I'm content with where I'm at. But it's certainly, as you start to reach, I'm going to be, before I know it, I'm going to be 50 years old here. I might look young, but I'm actually I'll be there soon enough. And yeah, you think, well, what would it be like to be flying the plane and have taken that path? So, but that individual may not be all that happy, or they may regret not spending the time and being able to slow down and just kind of smell the roses, if you will. So, I think I'm pleased that I definitely made some sacrifices, but I didn't sacrifice too much along the way.
On my end, I couldn't say that. My family really suffered. And when I finally woke up, when the Lord rescued me from hell, that's why I say, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, because if it wasn't because of him, I will have nothing. It was a total rescue. Like, my family had to sit me down and do an intervention on me, saying, when are you going to stop? When is you going to have enough money so that you can start living a life? And I'm like, I'm sorry. It took years to get out of that addiction to working, because that's another thing. Like, I was working for so long, for so many years, that if I had some more time with my family, I will get anxious. I will want to go back to the computer and try to do something that will make money. It becomes an addiction. So, when you celebrated Father's Day, I didn't think they were going to do anything for me, because I don't deserve anything. And then my older son, he put together a beautiful brunch for me, and my other 2 kids went, and they're all grown now, and my wife went. And when they asked me to speak, and I spoke and said, I don't deserve this. I shouldn't be here. You shouldn't love me. I was not there for your life. And I got very humbled, and I was very grateful, and I'm still grateful, because I'm recovering my family now when I'm 52, when I should have my family when I was 32, 42.
I hear you, but maybe they'll understand, or they'll I'm sure they do, but as they move on and have their own families, they'll understand that you did provide, and you did your best, and you did the best you could do, and that's all you can ask for. And have no regrets, right?
You know what? You're right on that side. I don't have, I mean, I was in church on Sunday and I lost as a Lord. I still feel full of regrets. And he's like, no, I already forgave you. Leave that. I said, don't look back. And it's true. Don't look back. I must have done something right. They're still loving me now, right? That's the grace of God, but they're still loving me. But that's why I love doing this podcast, because if I can save through my guests somebody's hardship that they don't need to go through, why? Why would you go through? Like, I'm here because of my mentors. You are here because of your mentors. You told me, right? And you had a great boss and you both got promoted at the same time. Why would you have to go through hell if you have a path that doesn't touch flames and fire? Right?
Right. And trying to maintain that work-life balance. And that's I've heard that a lot, and that was always first for me. Family was always a priority for me. It will always will be. It's a core value to who I am. It's in fact, when we picked our top 5 values for John C. Maxwell, it's kind of an exercise we do. There's like they give you a deck of cards with 52, I think, cards in a deck, and you have to pick, and they all have a certain leadership value, and everybody picks the top 5 that resonate with them. And so for me, it was competence, it was family, it was integrity. So I'm trying to, what were the other ones? I'm trying to remember what they were. It was I should know them: passion and effectiveness, right? So it was about being good at what I do, making an impact, and that's something that means a lot to me as I grow my career, is feeling like what I'm doing is impactful and valuable, and that I derive a lot of satisfaction from that. But it's all about the family. I don't live to work. I work to live. I think I heard that from my wife one time, or I don't know where I heard it, but it makes a lot of sense to me, right? The reason I'm working hard is so I can see the benefits with my family and do things that make us happy. And also just I want to have a lot of excitement, and I want to do things the right way. I want to be true to my word, and I want to, if I say I'm going to do something, you better believe I'm going to do it. Or if I can't do it, I'm going to tell you why I can't do it, and be very disappointed that I couldn't.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. More than 40 minutes have gone by. What a beautiful podcast. Thank you for your sharing, for opening up your heart to us. I'm going to give you a fun fact about Nvidia before I ask you the last question. I think it was 2017, 2016. I was traveling to get clients, and I went to a conference in San Francisco, in Silicon Valley. And after that, they had a party, and they invited me, and all these top, technologists were there. So I met the senior vice president. I think he was senior vice president of research and development for Nvidia. And he told me, he asked me where I was from. I told him, I'm from Toronto. And he says, did you know that because of a professor in the University of Toronto, we are expected to grow our stock 200% in the next 5 years? And I'm like, he's promoting his company, right? That's what I thought, right? And then he started explaining that this professor discovered that the graphics chip on those cards were way better for processing algorithms for AI than the actual processor of the computer.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? So it was a UFC dude that actually influenced Nvidia to start focusing on AI. And he had all these plans laid out, and I never bought a single stock of Nvidia.
I got some in 2020 a little bit, and but I remember I was at a trade show. I think I was in Las Vegas, and I was talking to Nvidia, and they were showing us some of their, because I also used them for gaming, because I was a big gamer as a teenager. And so they were like, yeah, this is actually what these GPUs can be used for, which is graphics processing unit. You think gaming, these are going to be great for AI. And I went, oh, that's pretty neat. And that was 9 years ago, I think, when that happened. And if I would have been, AI is going to happen in the early 2023, oh man, that would have been something. So yeah, hindsight's always 2020, but here we are today. But I do think there are a lot of other companies trying to break that dependency and develop their own silicons. But right now, Nvidia is, I think, one of the most valuable companies in the world. They're up there with Apple right now. So it's something else.
Remember it was thrown to make a fight with AMD, right? And all these other GPU developers. It's amazing. All right, one last question, because I know you have a lot to do. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
Be a good person.
It's easy to say, hard to do, Mike.
Yeah. Not only for the impact it has on others, but I think it makes you happier when you're a good human being to others. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Going back to this, to my faith, just read the 10 Commandments. The definition of being a good person. Don't break those 10 rules. It's only 10 rules. I remember John D. Peterson, you know about him? Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
He wrote this book, The 10 Rules for Life. When I read it, this is like reading the 10 Commandments. It's simple, like only 10. We can remember 10. And then if you put that around in your mind and your discipline, you're showing love. And being a loving person is being a good person.
It creates happier people, I think. I think when people are selfish or they shift away from that mindset, you find those people aren't all that happy.
Yeah, I know. And all you need to do is respect the freedom of others.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I agree.
When we live in the most beautiful part of the world. I'm convinced of that. North America, the USA and Canada, we enjoy the most financial abundance, the best of everything, and it's because we have freedom. The problem nowadays, though, is that we don't remember that my freedom ends when the freedom of my neighbor starts, and that's why I'm in so much trouble. And that's not being a good person, right?
Well said. Well said.
Mike, thank you so much for your participation. If people like to find out more about you or all the products that you represent, where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. My profile is Voss MM. That's VOSSMM, and can be contacted on there. I'm not as active on Twitter as I probably once was. I'm probably more of I use it for sources than sharing more. I'm more of a lurker, but yeah, I'd be happy to, if anyone would like to contact me on LinkedIn, and if any topics came up, I'd be happy to have a direct conversation.
Wonderful, Mike. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Same to you, David. It was a good one. Take care.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.